Hi, I'm Randy Hollenbeck, and this is the Music Roundtable. Today on the show, we have Acre from Metalcore band Set for Tomorrow.
What's going on, guys?
Pull me in, just to air us in. All my pain within is pouring out my mouth again. I'll make sure to grin, just to hold it in. Living with doubt, falling off the deep end. Now back, go say you don't want me no more. Take me somewhere far away from here. You're not so innocent. I'm not so innocent. I'm sorry that you felt this low and we're alone. I obsess over every mess. How do we clean up the feelings? Love again and pull you in when you're avoiding all that kind of bad. I don't know if we can go on, hold on. Another chase that I just let go and felt this low and we're alone. Is it over? Do we?
I just want to start out with some easy questions. Tell me about an album when you were growing up that you could listen to front to back without any skips.
That's an easy one. Okay. Easy one. Front to back with no skips. It's probably going to be something surprising because it's not going to be in this genre of music because I didn't grow up with this genre of music. I grew up on Latin music because I'm Puerto Rican and Panamanian. I think that back then, it probably would have been Usher's Confessions, part two. That would have been something that I would have been into back in the day before I got into guitar. Once I became a guitar player, full shift. I was like, I got more into like bands like Killswitch Engage. I think that's like the common one for everyone in metalcore. Love all of their stuff because I was a guitar player before I did vocals. So it was like that made it fun. I was super into the Bullet for My Valentine Poison album. I think that album was pretty sweet all the way through. It had a lot of cool guitar riffs. And then All That Remains also has some pretty sweet guitar parts. That was, yeah. So I'm all over the place.
Okay. First concert you attended.
First official concert I attended was the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. My parents took me to it was like a holiday Christmas event for the band. I think it was at the Verizon Center. And we were actually just talking about our first concerts the other day. That's funny. But yeah, that was my very first experience of like witnessing like an actual full on concert. I think maybe when I got older, I went to like Warped, and that was like my first experience of like that whole scene by myself. The first concert I was taken to was Trans Siberian Orchestra. That was pretty sweet.
Okay. Um, I want to dig into some history. Now, you were talking about you were a guitar player before you became a vocalist. What sparked your interest in pursuing like guitar and music?
So when I was a kid growing up, my parents, my dad's military, my mom's traditionally was raised traditionally, and they read an article in the newspaper when I was in elementary school that said that kids who learn an instrument when they're developing tend to get better at like retain knowledge better or do better academically. I was full opposite. So they put me in guitar lessons. They said you can learn drums, guitar, or piano. And I was like, drums would be cool. My parents are going to hate me if I'm playing that in the house. So I'm not going to do drums. Piano would have been sweet, but it wasn't as cool as playing guitar whenever you're in elementary school. So I was like, I want to be a guitar player. So I got put into the lessons. I think it was like a year in or something after I learned like they had me do basics and like music theory stuff. And then we were learning covers like Green Day or stuff like that. And I was like, this is way better than school. I don't, this is all I care about. And then it just slowly segued. Like I had other hobbies. Like I liked skateboarding when I was a kid, and like once I started really playing guitar and like focusing on music, the board went. I put the board down. Like I was just that was all I really cared about. Yeah, and they hated me. They got pretty mad at me for it, but they're pretty excited about it now, so it's okay.
Um, so who would you say are some of your musical influences?
Within the scene, I've been a big fan. This is going to be a generic answer that everyone gives, which is Bring Me. But I just like bands like them who just do what they want and they kind of get ahead of the curve. Like people get mad at bands for doing the generic thing, but I don't consider it a generic thing if you do it first and then everyone behind you follows suit to do it. It's like you kind of just establish the trend, and I feel like that band's that for that scene. I was also into this Latin artist named Juanes. He had a bunch of old music. He has a song called La Camisa Negra, which is a song that it's my black T-shirt, and it's a song that like everybody knows. Like if you put it on, you're like, I didn't know that and that guy, and then you play it, and you're like, oh, I know that song. But that guy has a bunch of music that I grew up on that was like very catchy to my ear as far as top line melodies go and things like that. And then my dad was super into like the Bee Gees and disco and stuff because he's Puerto Rican. So I've always had a really big ear for melody over top of the riffage. I'm like, you can do a cool riff. Let's make it a riff instead of a chug, because then that inherently becomes melodic and it just sticks better. So everything in my brain is like, let's make it melodic. Let's do the chugs with the drums. Have the drums play the chugs, and then you do some cool thing over top. You know what I mean? So that's just my viewpoint for all those things because of that.
Okay. Now, when you were growing up, did you like record stuff on your computer?
So I used my Nokia flip phone and I would go to my voice memos, and I'm pretty sure I still have the exact same vault from before. Just hundreds of files in there that I probably won't ever want to click on. But I used to, before I learned to track myself, it was like before everything got put in the box or in the computer or whatever. I used to just do like voice memo the guitar riff, like with my phone on my little crate cheap speaker, and then I'd retrack it and like record myself playing over that riff again to do left right, like to do like a lead and a rhythm or whatever. And it was like the worst sounding feedback ever. But I didn't actually get into tracking myself, like having a setup, till COVID, because whenever they shut everything down and then I was locked in my house, I was bartending at the time, so they shut down the business that I was working for, so I was just stuck at home. So I was like, everyone's just kind of spending their money on random things. What if because I wasn't in a band yet, so I was like, what if I buy all my studio equipment, learn to track myself, record myself, do demos? I could either join a band try to join someone who's existing, or be in a startup band in another state, or do something. Like I was like, I'm not just going to sit on my hands. So I invested all the money that I made into getting this entire setup, and then having and doing a lot of like training and just the bare minimum, so I could like, network and throw out ideas. I wasn't trying to be like a full-time producer necessarily, anything like that, but had to do some homework.
So is that kind of like how the band started? You started laying down these riffs and then going out there in search of like band members?
This band has a very interesting start. Mikey is the OG member of this band. It actually has been around since he was in high school, and he's kind of just, it's like you start your first project, you have like your local friends, you're just jamming, and then like as time goes on, obviously you're not the same person from when you're like 15 or 16. As like time goes on, different people have different priorities, and then they move on. And then he's just kind of met people along the way that ended up joining the band later on. Like he met Brendan, they played shows in different bands. The way he met me was because I went to a live band emo karaoke night at the venue he was working at. He was working at Canal Club in Richmond, and I went up there and I covered Under Oath. It was the Boy Brushed in Red song. And after I covered that, I came off stage, and he was looking for locals to just collaborate in general, because they already had music out and were a band with a vocalist. And then him and I just started collaborating on stuff. And then I don't think it was until like a year after that they kind of got my foot in the door to meeting him. And then like a year after that, they had some issues and then needed to fill in last minute. So I was like, I could probably cover this stuff. I'll offer to fill in. So I gave him a quick call, and then that was my tryout. I tried out basically on tour. I went on tour. We played Ink that year, Incarceration, And then the other festival was Frost Fest out of New York, which was pretty fun. But it was great. Got along with everybody pretty well. I'm still here.
Awesome. Awesome. Do you know how they came up with the name for the band?
I'm pretty sure they just came up with the name at the time, but it's become something a lot more over time. The what we found funny about the name was is like the idea set for tomorrow was like it was just it's just metalcore name, but then like over a period of time we've made it this like it's kind of also been our mantra for us personally. Like we've all established our own businesses because we were so determined by the band that we were like, we're not going to wait to outsource this or find somebody to do this or even do it cheaply. We're going to like go all out individually to learn how to do these things. So that's when Mikey became, he's like full-time producer, records bands, does stuff all the time. Brendan's a full-time does content. He's on tour right now with If Not For Me and Memphis Mayfire and Rain City Drive. And they're doing that stuff. Like, and then for me, I was like, I got to get really good at like digital design so I can do our merch designs and do all that kind of stuff and help us out with flyers and anything cool like that. So then like the idea of like Set for Tomorrow almost became like being us like we're always prepared for what we're going to do in the future, and we're not trying to wait on the opportunity to happen. We're just going to like let's go do what we can in not in a cheap way, because I think there's people who try to cut corners just to save money. I mean, like how do we deliver the way that this should be delivered, but we do it and then we don't have to worry about as much overhead. It's way more control that way. So that was basically the long-winded version of what that name really does mean now, but that wasn't necessarily what it was when it first started. That I know of.
Okay. Um, what city are you based out of?
Richmond, Virginia. Richmond, Virginia. We have our mates are kind of spread apart, but like we recon and hometown is Richmond.
Okay. And how's the music scene there?
It's pretty cool. There are sorry, I had a pop up on my computer. It's pretty sweet. There's a lot of you have like the National over here. Canal Club picks up a lot of shows. There's several different venues. I would like to see more of the national acts come through Richmond a little more often than they have been lately. But it's all right. It's not like a totally dead scene. I would say that I stay in Fredericksburg, Virginia, so I'm an hour north of them and like an hour and a half south of our bassist in Baltimore. And usually the fun events are either there or like either in either direction. So I can't really complain too much. I like my little quiet area. I like to travel for the fun and then be away from it when I don't want to be around it.
Okay. You guys just signed with Thriller Records. Tell me a little bit about that. Is there things you look for when you sign with a label?
Yeah, so previously we were on the label Theoria with our friend Cody, who plays drums, and If Not For Me as well. The guys have been friends with him. We've all been friends with them for a little while now, and we were just like, we were looking for like once you start taking on a lot of things as a band, especially when you decide that you're gonna self-employ your own people within your band to now do X, Y, and Z, you start to get spread thin. So you kind of want to be like, where are you allocating those resources and how are you managing them? So we're like, the next best thing would be um, having a close friend who understands like a little bit of the industry or like how to help us with our distribution. So like for a while we had that kind of set up with him, and then we got into talks. I don't remember who met one of the guys from the label first, but we were like talking through social media for like a year before we actually landed anything specifically. It wasn't until Mikey and I went out to go record in Nashville that we kind of got more into conversation about it. And then we sat on the news for like 8 months, and everyone felt like their neck was like about to explode because we were getting hit up by everybody like, you guys want to do this? You guys want to do that? And we're like, yes, but we can't, like, we don't even know what's happening. It's like everything's going through, the way contracts and things like that work. So it was like a lot of waiting, but like I'd say it was like the most exciting year for us to not be overly outward about that thing because it just got announced like in October, and I think we settled on wanting to do it since like we started talking in February officially, and I think we got everything figured out by like the middle of the year. then we still just had to sit on it. But it's been sweet. It's awesome. Like we wanted to be coachable, so we were looking for like we didn't want to just sign for the sake of signing. We were like, what? Like we want somebody who's gonna like help us with their vision. We're not know-it-alls. Like where do we need to be coached? What are we doing that is correct? How can we yeah, like how do we get the most bang for a buck per se for everything that we're trying to do? And Thriller was kind of a dream label almost, because I remember growing up being hype on Fearless, and it's Bob Becker's label. So I'm just like, this is the best case scenario for us. I think that was sweet. So we were all, that was almost like, as soon as that was the offer, because we weren't even sure if that was what the offer was going to be, we were just like, yeah, let's figure that out. Also, I will say we did look for a label. I don't think we reached out to them first, but like we did had one of the things we talked about was not having a label that had too big of a roster, because you want to make sure people have like time and attention to actually care about signing you. And their team's been wonderful. They're so cool to hang out with. They're really nice people. They've been wonderful.
Awesome. Okay. I want to dig into a couple songs here. You just had Someone Lonely just came out, and you say, woke up and everything just changed around me. I don't know when faith had let me down and turned me into someone lonely. Can you tell me a little bit about that lyric and about the song?
Yeah, that song was written very much about when I say faith, people might misconstrue it to be religious, whereas where I was writing that song, it was faith within my own relationship. I was going through a lot of changes that year. Me and my significant other had split apart after 5 years, and then my parents also moved from being 15 minutes away to Colombia. So it was like shell shock, and then having to find where I was going to move to. Everything broke up. We're cordial. Everything was fine, but the idea of changing your living space all of a sudden sucks. And then downsizing yourself to like a new space, whenever you've like had your the faith aspect is like, I've had faith in this entire future. Like I had this entire future planned with whoever it is, whatever your life plans are, and then you just wake up and it's all gone, and now you just got to figure out, adapt. It's like a shell shock almost kind of feeling. But that was what I wanted to add in for that chorus. I wanted it to feel like like quite literally a wake up call, essentially.
And you must have like been like kind of freaked out when everything happened like all at once, and you were like, oh, what am I gonna do now? You know?
Yeah, there was a whole lot, because in that relationship, she had her own life things that were happening that she needed more help with and more support with. So if you listen to arcs and like read into it, there's a lot of things that, some of it I refer to when else, other things I talked loosely about other people I knew. But there's a song called Do You, where like the idea of that song is to stop and smell the roses, even though you're working really hard. Like you got to stop and not let life go by you, because you might lose the people you care about. I mean, like if you're somebody who's a touring artist, or even if you're like military overseas, you travel for work, whatever it may be, you're gone for a month. Back at home, everyone's lived those 30 days while you've been gone. So much has probably happened that you have no clue about. You need to make sure you make the time to check in on the people you care about. Can't be upset when you're getting married and your best friend that you wanted to be there, who you haven't talked to in 10 years, isn't going to be there because you haven't talked to him in 10 years. So it's a lot of that. It's like adapting to life, knowing, being self-aware of like where your faults are, where those faults are, where things can't align, where they can't, accepting it, and then not rolling over on it. That's the other thing. It's like, it's a big figure it out. That's like the big thing on it. Yeah. I don't like to write things to be like super self-loathing. I mean, I might have my moments where I get it a little bit out of there, but like the overall theme is like being like overcoming those things. Because I think most things, if not all, are available to do that within reason, I guess.
I know you really like to talk about the fights and how many left it from me. Now you tell me that you had enough, but bad enough, none of you so ugly. You left me wanting, dragging my days out. You tell your friends I'm
the next song is called Over. And I like this one line where you're like falling off the deep end, you're falling off the deep end. And you have two other lines here. It says, "I'm sorry that you feel that low when we're alone. I obsess over every mess." Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so right on that same segment of like when you're having issues, it was like when your partner has so much going on and you have a lot going on, like I was like we had the I don't want to air out her livelihood, but she had family issues basically with like health issues with family members passing and stuff like that. And she needed somebody to be there present while I also was really like was arguably the most busy we've ever been with the band stuff, and I was working a full-time sales job as my other actual main gig. Which, if you ever work sales, you have to be on your phone all the time. Like you don't even get a break from sales. Like you're off. You have clients. Like I did sales for paint jobs for residential and commercial places. So it's like just because I sell you the job, if someone goes and messes that up within the 2 weeks that your place is getting painted, I still have to put up with that. So like I just had a lot on my plate. And that song Over was like almost like every little thing that would be a minor inconvenience or whatever it would be would almost be that the straw to break the camel's back or whatever. And it was just like every little mess was every little thing became obsessive and every little thing became this argument. And then next thing you know, we're sharing a house together, but we both feel like nobody else is around. Like it's just you feel that. So that was what that was about. That was actually the flagship single to the EP prior to us adding the two new tracks to it with Thriller. And then Someone Lonely came out after, which is almost like an extension of what that song was, because Over was the theme of what Someone Lonely kind of was.
Chase you down again. My dogs aside and now surround my covered eyes. Do I make amends? My side is stretched down and showing off your deep end. Now back, you'll say you only know more. Keep me showing far away from here. You're not so guiltless. I'm sorry that you felt this low and we're alone. I obsess over every mess. How do we clean up the feelings? Love again and pull you in when you're avoiding all that kind of bad. I don't know if we can go on, hold on to another chase that I just let go and felt this low and we're alone. Is it over? Do we even know?
Now, the screaming in the song where you're like rest, reset. Are you like afraid that might take a toll on your voice and stuff when you scream? Is there like techniques that you use to so it doesn't ruin it or anything?
No, I went to I'm a weirdo, so like whenever I couldn't find a band for a while, I was still taking like I started taking vocal lessons and doing workshops with signed like artists or whatever to try and be better. And then in 20 I remember 18 or 17 of November, I went to Melissa Cross in New York and then I stayed with her for 3 days and we did the whole shebang on correcting some of my singing and my screaming. My screaming was right, my singing was wrong, which is really funny. And to this day, I still do workshops. Like I actually, one of my meetings I had right before this call was another workshop with somebody else. So I'm a big component. Like you want to play your guitar for a living, you better take guitar workshop classes or learn something to do with your instrument. You want to be a vocalist, you can't change this out. If something happens, you really want to invest in yourself, go invest in yourself. You only get one body, take care of it. And I live by that. So I always am putting myself in some kind of workshop or some kind of thing to better myself. It only makes my job easier if I get better at it, right? So don't want to go out there being unhealthy and hating my life. So I stay on my toes with that kind of stuff. You definitely want to be all the people who get into vocals. I think sometimes get too excited about discovering stuff and then they hurt themselves because they practice too much up front. I think there's a sweet spot to how much you want to experiment before you hurt yourself.
Now, do you like do vocal warm-ups before you go out and play on stage? Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. I have we got the Dr. Vox. I think is pretty sweet. It kind of does the straw bubble test. If anyone who's watching has ever watched the Melissa Cross straw bubble thing, it's essentially the same thing, which is just resistance training on your voice, and it helps you kind of stretch. It's kind of like if you worked out and you use one of those elastic cables to like exercise. It feels kind of like that on your voice. But I'll do that to kind of eliminate some hoarseness. I stay hydrated all every single day. Like I have like a big container of water to make sure that I'm down to a certain point by a certain point of the day, and then I sleep a lot. I usually will wake up for us to get breakfast, skip coffee so I can take a nap till we get to the venue, and then that'll be when I have my coffee to wake up. Because if you're talking the entire day, you don't think about how you'll blow through your stuff talking over people, especially if you don't play till like 10 o'clock at night or something like that. That that's when it's not a good time. But ironically, I actually think screaming, depending on the type of scream, can be easier to get away with because people notice when you sing a note wrong. They don't necessarily notice if you just do a good scream in place of a verse that's screamed. You know what I mean?
Okay. What's your plans for 2026?
We'll be working on our next body of work for sure. We are constantly working like ourselves, like without having to necessarily book studio time, like extra, like outside of the band. But we do have plans for some studio time at the beginning of next year. I don't know about the middle yet. We're still kind of playing everything out. We have a really exciting announcement next year. I can't say it yet. That's going to be very fun. Typical band tour stuff, and then the other thing I also can't talk about that I just found out about today, but more really cool stuff. Next year is going to be really exciting. If people have not seen us in person yet because we were stuck to East Coast and all that kind of stuff, next year will be the year that we will get out to you to some degree. We'll be able to reach us somehow within the US. Can't say when or with who or anything past that point, but next year's the year. Next year's the year we can hang out.
Okay. Um, what's your take on AI in music?
Hmm. I think AI is sort of like Pandora's box, or it's like you can utilize it as a organizer. Like I don't think it's a problem whenever people use it as an organizer. When you have it writing your own music for you, I think it takes away from like what is feeling human and listening to something that isn't perfect to a degree. I mean, a lot of music's written on a grid now electronically, so it is sonically as perfect as it's ever has been, I guess. But I still think that there's a difference between us watching a CGI movie and then going to catch a play in real life. I don't think that it's going to remove local. I don't think it's going to take over live music. What I think will happen is that the AI music is going to end up potentially doing trending better than the local musicians who don't learn to write music that's that commercial. I think that's where you'll see some of it. But if you look at like the whole thing, there's as soon as somebody finds out the band's AI, they're like, get it out of here. I don't want it. So it's like I kind of think that it's gonna be a lot of that. I really hope we don't go down this like scary rabbit hole where people can make art like a song as if it was made by somebody else. Like I think that should totally be illegal. You start making your own episodes of like Dragon Ball Z after it's been long done. Like that's not okay. You should not be allowed to do that. It should be like stealing an IP. But yeah, I'm not a fan of like robots doing art. Like I think that's kind of like the opposite of what it's intended to do. But like I said, I think it's useful for other things, just not that. Like if I needed a sound bite for spitballing, even then, nah, not a fan. So I was trying. I was like, maybe if you were like oddly specific and you're like, I need a sample of like a truck doing this, and this, and a car crash, and this is the sample I want from whatever. Instead of having to search Splice for a pre-made sample, you might be able to just automate it, I guess. But even then, I'd rather just pull it up from Splice. So I don't. Not a big fan of it. I'm also a graphic designer, so like I get annoyed at the people send stuff and they're like, "What do you think of this logo?" I'm like, I know it's AI, but I'm not going to be rude.
Yeah, it's kind of like taking away creativity.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when you start adding 0110 to the painting, like Mona Lisa isn't as entertaining. It isn't as cool.
Okay. Um, where can we get a hold of you? Facebook, Instagram?
Yeah, so the band, we have all socials. I think we even have a Threads. So it's Facebook, Instagram, set for tomorrow. We have a Patreon, which has cool stuff on there. We'll post stuff. We'll make announcements before stuff comes out, and then we'll also have uh, a discount code for people who subscribe to it. And I will also say that there is a free tier join. So we have a cool Discord where people just hang out and talk about whatever. There's band guys in there too. It's a good time. But yeah, we're on everything. We're all over the place. Shout out Brendan. He takes care of a lot of the socials. Him and James.
Okay. And when does the album get released? The new album from Thriller?
Our final edition of Arcs will be all the way out, released with all the tracks and vinyl December 5th. I believe that's what the date is. December 5th. Very excited. Very, very excited. Yes, it is December 5th.
Okay. And are you guys planning on releasing another music video off that album?
That's a good question. We were talking about it for a little while. I think we kind of want to see like what drops and like what makes sense. Like, don't want to release. Kind of want to like have it come out and then see if a song makes sense to then reshoot a video for it. Because on our rollout for the EP prior to getting signed, I think we have a music video for like almost every single song. So it would almost be like a let's go and just give one a facelift and redo it kind of thing if we were going to do that. Or we could do it to the newest track, I guess. But we'll see which one. You never know. Like we could like put all our eggs in a basket and think that like the newest song is the one that's going to pop off, and then everyone just decides that like the very first song we ever released is the one that gets great, and then you know what I mean, and then it makes more sense to do that song instead. So we're just going to kind of play and call an audible as needed there, which is it's fine.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Thanks for coming on the show today. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, thanks for having me. I'm glad we finally got to make it work. Yeah, it's been sweet.